support stem cell research for the sake of the millions of American citizens who are burdened with diseases such as Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and diabetes that potentially can be alleviated by your support. Millions of people that you help represent are being condemned to a slow, painful death sentence because others refuse to permit the funding to take non-living embryo stem cells from the excess material resulting from in vitro fertilization wastes that are slated to be discarded and to apply them for the benefit of the afflicted. In Jewish tradition, embryos are non-living until 40 days after conception, and as those used will be 5 days old, it is suggested that they are non-living genetic material. As these embryos are intended to be thrown away, it implies that those who are lobbying against stem cell research are inclined to allow the embryos to be put to waste. Would it not be better to honor potential life by utilizing it to serve a greater purpose, to save millions of people from suffering, victims of both their diseases and those who block progress in the potential cures offered by said progress? The possibility to help the 25.8 million people grading under the weight of the burden offered by diabetes, the chance to save the projected 106 million people who could develop Alzheimer's by 2050, is that not worth reprogramming cells that will never be born as individual human beings, that were going to be put to waste, rotting away in the trash? A poll in August of 2010 suggests that 2/3 of the country are in support of stem cell research, and as you represent a fraction of these people, should you not represent them accurately by also voting for this bill? You have our support, and the Stem Cell Research Advancement Act needs yours. Without it, the fates of those in need are subjected to the whims of the ever-changing presidents. The April 2011 appeals court deemed this research legal, but we need your help to transform it into a law.
Religiously, the people of the Jewish faith believe, just like many other faiths, in the value of the human life. Because of this Jewish value, Jews continually look for all possibilities in which a life can be enriched or saved. It is for this reason that we avidly pursue the passing of the Stem Cell Research Advancement Act of 2011. This act will keep constant funding for research on embryonic stem cells that are in excess from in vitro fertilization and would otherwise be discarded and are given up for research by the adults who called for the creation of these cells in the first place alive. As Jews, we believe in multiple teachings that force us to avidly push for the passing of this bill. According to Moses Maimonides, a great Jewish sage and doctor, God created drugs and intelligence necessary to discover their medical properties. We must use them in warding off illness and disease. This shows how we must use our intelligence for the greater good in the fight to ward off diseases. Other teachings include that from the Talmud, stating, "One who saves one life is accounted as if a world is saved." This shows how great a value is placed in the Jewish faith on the saving of life. To go on, we are steadfast in our belief that the possibility of saving a human life, such as those with Alzheimer's, holds more weight than a 5-day-old embryo, as written in the book Leviticus, "Neither shall you stand idly by the blood of your neighbor." This shows that we must act in the interest of the many millions of Americans with life-threatening diseases, as opposed to the well-being of an embryo that will be discarded anyways. With all of this in mind, this topic has deep roots in the Jewish faith that urges us to take action for the possibility of saving millions of lives. After all, as Maimonides taught, the practice of healing is not merely a profession, it is a mitzvah, a righteous obligation.
And as somebody that would be personally affected by the contents of this bill, I hope that you take our logic to heart. Being born profoundly deaf in both ears is not the best way to start off life, but I have definitely tried to make the best of my circumstances since then. Luckily, I have a cochlear implant which helps me hear, and I've done quite well with it, but this device will always have its limitations. Now just imagine what I would be able to accomplish if I was not limited in what I could hear. Research from embryonic stem cells could offer me and millions of other Americans without previously incurable diseases to utilize their bodies more freely without heavy medical burdens. Your vote on this bill is extremely critical to helping me and others get the chance to utilize our body to its fullest potential. It's important to realize, though, that my condition is not life-threatening like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, but my life has definitely been altered due to my handicap. Keep in mind that with embryonic stem cell research, I would not have to constantly plan around my hearing loss. And with this research, I would be able to possibly live a completely normal life. Unfortunately, I was also diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis, another condition capable of being cured with the Stem Cell Research Act is passed. Over the last few years, the arthritis has limited my range of motion and at certain times held me out of my favorite sports such as golf, basketball, and ultimate frisbee. This Stem Cell Research Act would allow scientists to work to exponentially improve the quality of life of millions of people, and we would all be so grateful if this law was passed. Although this issue is much bigger than just myself, I know that the other individuals with diseases like mine would like nothing more to be rid of their unfortunate afflictions and be free to live normal lives like those who are blessed not to be dealing with these issues. As you realize by now, we strongly support embryonic stem cell research, and we would hope that you would see why it is such an important issue in this country. With this being said, we would like for you to vote in favor of this Stem Cell Research Advancement Act of 2011. Thank you very much for listening to us. Have a good day.
We come to you to ask for your support in extending unemployment insurance for a full year to help Americans struggling during the economic downturn and keep the economy growing. As you may know, people receive unemployment benefits when they lose their jobs involuntarily because of the said economic downturn. These benefits are truly vital to helping millions of Americans keep afloat money-wise while looking for work to support families, friends, anyone that they may care for. And yet, in 2010, 46.2 million Americans lived in poverty, which is unfortunately the highest number in over 50 years. They had to survive on an average sum of $295 a week. Of course, though it may seem to be just a sum, that money changed lives and maybe saved lives. It bought children school supplies. It gave parents food for their families. It clothed the homeless. Now, typically, unemployment benefits only they expire in 26 weeks. But in a long economic downturn, such as ours, it's just unreasonable to cut it off after 26. So when the economy is doing poorly, the federal government has historically created programs providing further weeks of benefits. No Congress has ever allowed federal unemployment benefits to expire when the unemployment rate is above 7.2%. And yet, in December 2011, the unemployment rate was 8.5%, the lowest in 3 years, and yet still well above the historic threshold of 7.2%. It's because of this that unemployments were extended to only February 2012, next month. I'm here to tell you that that is simply just not enough. If we truly want to help Americans struggling during this recession, we have to extend this date. Just know that for every $1 that the government invests in unemployment benefits, the Congressional Budget Office estimates that up to $1.90 is added to the U.S. economy.
Jewish values and economic values go hand in hand. The Torah teaches us that providing for those in need is not a matter of charity, but an obligation. If there is a needy person among you, do not harden your heart and shut your hand against your kin. Rather, you must open your hand and lend whatever is sufficient. That's a quote from Deuteronomy, and this means that the government should give willingly to those in need, because no matter how in debt our country is, there will always be Americans who need a helping hand. We are further taught in the proverb that one who withholds what is due to the poor affronts the Creator. One who cares for the needy honors God. God is like our parent, and we are his children. And like any parent, he wants what's best for us, and for us to help each other like brothers and sisters. So the government should be readily there to help us out. And Judaism also teaches that the highest form of tzedakah, an act of charity or kindness, is to help another person achieve self-sufficiency. Unemployment insurance is the support that the jobless need to regain self-sufficiency by finding work again. Many of the unemployed citizens are homeless. With homelessness comes a constant struggle of scavenging for your next meal. When someone is leading this sort of life, it's next to impossible to go job hunting. Until these people receive the needed help, they won't be able to fully come out of their economic troubles.
Good afternoon. I've been personally affected by this economic downturn. In my entire 16 years, I've not had to worry about my mother, but unfortunately now I do. About a year ago, she was laid off her job as a speaker for an educational company, EdTech International. Recently, she has been in and out of several small jobs as a secretary for different lawyers and attorneys. But now she has no semblance of a career whatsoever. She has been looking for a job for the past 5.5 months, but she has had no luck. Our money has slowly been depleting. She has been working so hard all day and all night looking for work. Her hopes are sinking along with the money. A few weeks ago, I overheard a phone call between her and the health insurance company. The representative told my mom that without the benefits of a job, or provided by a job, she would have to pay a total of $375 a month for insurance. The look on her face was one of utter shock. She looked like she was about to burst into tears, and she simply cannot afford that at this time. I don't know how my mother and I are going to survive this titanic economic downturn. I'm not sure how things are going to turn out, and I'm extremely worried. I fear that my situation could degenerate like one of my closest friends who's about to lose their home. I could potentially become homeless. We must be aware of situations like this, and it's happening all over the nation, and it must be stopped.
In conclusion, an extension of unemployment insurance is absolutely necessary to nurse our struggling economy back to its superpower worldwide level. You've heard how it will definitely greatly benefit the entire country. You've also heard how it's firmly supported by our own Jewish ideals. And lastly, you've heard how it will change the life of a teenager that came before you today. It's because of these powerful and quite simply life-changing reasons that we ask for your full support in extending unemployment insurance for a full year. Thank you very much.